Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday and welcome to Wake Up Legendary. I am your host today, Joanne, the Director of Marketing here with Legendary Marketer. It is a decade in a day. So Dave is over there working with all of our students that are in that workshop. That's all day today, which is awesome. So I get to be here, which I'm super stoked about because we have a guest who has been killing it online for quite some time. Is in the fitness niche. I was checking out her fitness page earlier this week. I was checking out her new page. She's got a variety of different social accounts, and I just love what she's doing and love how she shows up online, and I'm so excited for you all to hear her story. So without further ado, I could tell I made her a little embarrassed. Welcome Rachel to the show. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm so excited to have you. You know, you didn't like find Legendary and then show up online. You've been on a different journey. You've done a lot of different things. You've been online for quite some time in the fitness niche, which is super cool. So let's start at the beginning because I read that you're kind of a lifetime entrepreneur. You've tried a lot of different things. So give us the Rachel backstory of how we even started your own business back in the day.
Oh, I feel like there's a lot, a lot there. It's funny because I realized that it will be 20 years that I've been in the fitness industry this year. So that's kind of crazy, wild to giving away my age a little bit there, but also very excited about that. But I didn't really make that a business until about 12 years ago or so. I actually went to college in the medical field and worked in radiology as a rad tech. I worked in a specialist procedures lab and traveled, and then got really big into fitness. And it was when Instagram was in its infancy and I saw people utilizing it in this different way. And I was like, I can do this too. And my husband was the one who actually really pushed me. We had started dating. We were dating at the time. He's like, you could do this on your own. You could do this coaching. And at the time, I didn't think I was cut out for owning my own business or working for myself. It was absolutely terrifying concept. But with his support, I stepped away from my full-time medical job at that time, which was clinical, and did coaching and launched a virtual coaching business, which back then, before it was really cool and popular, and you see all these trendy fitness influencers, people would look at you and be like, how do you coach people online? How does that work? Don't people want to work with you one-on-one?
And that was 10, 12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
That definitely back then blew people's mind, guys. Yeah. Really think about the timeline of this. I love that. You're innovative.
Yeah. Well, I think so to some degree. But so since then that has transformed, how I coach and work with people has transformed. I had a little bit of burnout working for myself, not, wasn't as business savvy, and trying to be like a one-woman show, doing all the things was just a lot, and overwhelming. And then in the fitness space, it's always been a passion of mine, but after some time, when you're working harder for other people for their goals than they're working for themselves, that can kind of leave you, I don't know, a little unfulfilled and a little lackluster. And so I've shifted how I train and coach people. I went back into the medical field a few years ago and took a full-time position working and on the technical and corporate side, which was great pay. But also once I had my son, I realized about a year and a half in, I told my husband, I said, I don't know that I want to do this anymore. I really feel compelled to be home with our kids more. And he travels a lot for work. So I shifted back into that, from working full time and trying to dig into my side hustles more and what I was doing more in coaching. And so that transformed there too.
I love it. So now we're back online with fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did you end up finding Legendary? What were you looking for? Were you not looking for us? And you're like, what is this? How did that story go for you?
So interestingly enough, I've always had a side hustle, a secondary form of income, and even
Mhm.
deciding to be a full stay-at-home mom, I've always had somewhere to pull. Sorry, my dog is
Oh, you're good.
wanting to join us.
So cute.
Um, where to pull from, and I was looking at ways to help my business, my fitness business, or just grow, or different avenues of income. How can I still be present at home with my kids, but also build something for my own? Like something was missing
Great.
there. And actually had a friend who's been very successful at Legendary, Sean Sorrento, shout out to him.
Yep.
He's
Yep.
amazing, who I knew in the fitness industry. And I knew he'd kind of like fallen off social media. And then all of a sudden he started appearing in my feed again. And I was like, oh, I'm here for this. Like he started showing up in this new space. It was completely unrelated to fitness. And I watched him for 5 months build this business, talk about this business. And finally, it was last summer, I reached out to him. I said, what is this? How
Right.
can I do this? How can this help me? And like, can I pick your brain? And so he was like, yeah, sure. He hopped on a call and we started chatting. And he was explaining all this stuff to me. And so I got involved. And sure enough, as soon as I started doing the 15-day challenge and I started looking into this, my mind was just like checking all the places like, oh my gosh, like how this could have benefited me, my business years ago, could have prevented
Mhm.
burnout, marketing, like all the things. And I also started realizing how some of my peers in the industry were having so much success and where I was missing the mark. And I was just like, felt really defeated initially, but also just like inspired at the same time. So that's how I found Legendary, thanks to Sean. And that's why I'm here today.
Oh, I love that. You know what? That's what's so cool is you've had your own business, you've
Hmm.
been online, and then you find this next step of education. You're like, crap, I can now do this. I can now do this. There's two ways to look at it. You can go, man, I really messed up. I missed the
Yeah.
mark. Or you could, I'm sure, like you shared, there was that moment, but then you can get really excited and go, look at all I can do to re-energize my current businesses that I'm building and my current online presence and really add to it. And then even add a whole nother income stream because now you've started
Yes.
another channel, another social. So you're running multiple social media channels,
Yes.
multiple niches at the same time, which is not easy to do
No.
at all. It's not recommended for anyone brand
No.
new to the online space, but Rachel isn't brand new to the online space. So I want to make that clear. She was building something and then she's used her education with Legendary to catapult that further and then add in additional niches and additional income streams, which is really the ultimate goal as we all go further down this journey. So it's really cool to see that even though you were in it, there's always something to learn.
Absolutely. 100%. I wish I'd found this sooner. And now it's like one of those things where you see it
Mhm.
everywhere. Like now you can't unsee it. And you can see how it can benefit so many industries and people. And yeah.
So you're home, you've got kids, we have multiple businesses, technically, multiple, because each niche is like it's its own beast. It needs
Yes.
consistent attention. And that's what I think some people miss the mark on when they try to do too many different niches at once
Hmm.
is they don't build one. But you have a pretty solid following on your fitness in
Yeah.
your fitness niche on your IG channel. You have a really good growing channel with your wealth niche, we'll call it. Um, how do you juggle your day? How do you schedule your day? Or is it just all over the place? Do you have a plan? How do you stay consistent? We
Um,
gotta know the secrets.
I mean, I will say it's a struggle because I am a very free spirited kind of person. I have had to really learn how to time block and manage my time, especially like motherhood will kind of force you into that. Like, if you're
Yeah.
not a time oriented person, your kids will make you that way. And once you see how they kind of flourish on a schedule and it benefits them and it starts to benefit you too, I think it kind of comes I wouldn't say naturally, but it's a learned like habit. It can feel like a mess sometimes, especially like if my son is not feeling well. Like we recently moved into a house and then we were down for a week with the norovirus, and that wasn't planned. I was like, oh, thank goodness for this flexibility, but also like you have to be able to like pivot and like shift and just kind of like accept what is. Some days are a little bit more routine and structured than others, but I try to give myself grace in knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I just need to be consistent and like showing up. And I think that's where people get hung up. And I know I have too, is that you think you have to have all these boxes checked in order to just start. But sometimes you just have to start messy and where you are and figure out along the way and give yourself grace and permission to like fail forward too.
I mean, that's huge. It is. It has to start messy.
Yeah.
You have to kind of live in the muck and love it. Like
Yeah.
embrace it. Like this is it.
Yeah.
Because perfection is just like a fear barrier
Yeah.
almost. If we're waiting to launch, waiting to put out content, waiting to post, waiting to put our link out because it's not perfect, it's just a barrier we've created out of fear to stay stuck.
Yeah. Absolutely. I 100% believe that to be true.
Yeah. And it's so what has helped you in all of your different ventures over the years stay motivated, get unstuck when you've had those days, those weeks that maybe you just kind of felt the weight of entrepreneurship on you? How did you keep pushing over time? Because you've been in the online space for like a decade.
Yeah.
So there's highs and lows in that. There's no like you reach a peak and then you stay there forever, right?
100%.
Yeah. So
I think a few things. I think allowing yourself to realize things that no longer serve you. I think sometimes we tend to think, okay, well, this worked for me then and it got me here. And you just keep plugging away at it. But you have to realize the things that are no longer serving you and omit them, like take them out. And I think I can relate this a lot to the fitness industry because you think in your 20s, like this works for you, but then your body changes and things change, your schedule, your life routine changes when you become a mom. So you have to shift things. Same thing happens like when you're learning something new or you're in the entrepreneur space, you have to realize the things that no longer serve you. You have to be able to take a step back and reflect and look at what's working and what's not, and admit where like you need to take some things away. I mean, I think that's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you've had a business and you're like, well, shoot, this didn't really work for me. And it's kind of embarrassing and it's very humbling, but it's
right.
experience. And when you get, I guess, experience and like with time and age, you kind of learn to recognize that. And it's not so embarrassing anymore. It's just something that happened. And I think having like just like the tenacity to keep going, because every day is not perfect and every day some days kind of really suck, and that's just the nature of life and how it is. Like it's not always going to be perfect, so making sure that you can still like show up on those days that suck and say it sucks right now, but if I keep going, like I'll get past this and I'll learn how to overcome it, and it'll just be experience that I can share with someone else or reflect back on some days. I think that's important too, because people want to do something because it's glorified sometimes or it looks nice to be in the online space and work from home all the time. Yeah, there's a lot of perks to it, but there are some things about it. You have to be self-motivated, and there are some days where it's not as fun and you have to do all the other little tasks, like set up your damn funnel and all this other like technical stuff in order to get to the good part where you can do all the other things. So you've got to do the hard work too.
Yeah, definitely. And it all comes together. It's all a package deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And accepting that that's the package. And on the days, the weeks where we're in the valley of despair, we like to call it here, like there's those peaks and valleys, and sometimes you're in the desert, it feels hot, and you're like, is this when I quit? And you've got to take quitting off the table, and the hard work is then to look,
Yeah.
self-reflect. Well, what do I need to change that I'm doing to get me out of this valley of despair quicker?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's looking at your content. All right,
Yeah.
what am I putting out there? What does my messaging look like? What's the journey I'm bringing somebody on? Am I actually building trust? Am I building a relationship? Am I sharing value? Or am I just like, hey, wham, bam, come buy from me. Bye. Come buy
Yeah.
from me, come buy from me, right? It's really looking back at those things and then being willing to make those adjustments and to try something new, a different angle, a different approach, even different camera angles, different,
Yeah.
different. There's so many different things we can try, and getting excited about different instead of feeling the weight of the pity party of, oh, that wasn't working what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's, how do you self-evaluate and stay positive through that process when you need to make some changes?
I think just looking at as like a tool, like instead of, because I mean,
Mm,
I'm human. I
yeah,
get upset or kind of feel defeated. I mean, I feel all those same things too, but then I have to say, okay, well, instead of getting butthurt over like these like numbers
right.
or like, what do they call them? Vanity metrics. Cause that's, a lot of fluff. It's like saying, okay, well, that didn't work. I learned that, but maybe I could try it at a different time or on a different day. Cause sometimes you post content and it just doesn't stick that day. But there's been times where I'll like repost something just to kind of play around. Um, and see what works. And I think people are afraid to like just try new stuff, try what's different, post at a different time, post, like you said, at a different angle,
Mm-hmm.
try like writing different copy in your captions to see if people, respond to that. Try different calls to action, like mess around, play around. Like Instagram, like social media is just supposed to be fun. Like, and if you're out there just messing around and like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what works, you might find something that does. And then you can, okay, this worked. Let's try this a few more times. And then you can start to hone it in a little bit. That's really like taking that, again, messy initial like action is what's going to help you figure out like what feels best for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and even, some people get hung up on, I don't know what niche to go into.
mhm.
I don't know what audience to talk to. So they end up talking to no one because they're like, I'm
Yeah,
going to talk to everybody until I
yeah,
figure it out. But then a month goes by, 2 months go by, and they're like, I feel like I'm shadow banned. Nobody's watching me. I'm in a shadow banned. You just aren't
yeah,
talking to a specific audience. So nobody is hearing you. You're just yelling in a loud, like
yeah,
concert hall.
yeah,
No one can hear you. You got to get into a small room and get a little more intimate with a smaller group that you can connect with. Think of it that
100%.
way, right? Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So how did you decide, like, okay, I'm going to add a new social media account. I'm going to start promoting in the make money online, the wealth niche. So that's obviously at square one. You already have a booming Instagram. How did that feel starting a new account and starting from zero, having a day one all over again?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. It's funny because there was this huge part of me that was really nervous and like anticipatory about like what could happen if I was going to be successful here. But then there was this part that felt like no pressure because I've established this fitness niche and I have this community. So I feel like I owe them, like I need to show up for them for them, give them this certain content and provide value for them because I've been there and I've built like relationships with people in real life, like, and friendships that I value because of it. So I know the power of social media, but also there was like no pressure. It was kind of exciting and freeing. And I was excited about showing up again because there are days that you get burnt out. And I
Yeah.
literally will take like a couple days free from social media. And if you're feeling the burnout, step away for a minute, take a breath, and then come back. Like it works wonders. But it's kind of fun to like create different types of content and like step into a different like niche and it's even inspired like, oh, I could use this sound or use this concept, like how could I use this over here, and they play off of each other. So I really love the idea of like no pressure. That's why when people are like, I have no followers, I don't have this, I'm like, great, you have like no pressure, just go have
Right?
fun. And it's the best thing you can do because you're going to figure it out along the way and people are going to find you organically, and you're going to like, you find your voice along the way, you find your audience along the way, they find you. Like, why so much pressure to have all this following? That's when it kind of feels like heavy and like a job and like you
Mm-hmm.
have to put content out. So it's kind of like that interesting dichotomy of feeling both sides of it. but it's been fun.
I not really thought about it that way, but I love that. I have no followers, so go do all the things.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, that's your time to really experiment because nobody's watching and see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a box of this is all I'm going to talk about. This is my only content. I'm too scared to try anything new or be my authentic self or be silly or be weird. Be silly, be weird, try something totally off the wall that excites you and brings you some joy and that you have
Yeah.
fun creating and see what happens because nobody's watching at that time. I love that. Like that's your chance to like dance in front of a mirror in the room alone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? I honestly, I haven't really thought about it that way in a really long time. That's such a beautiful way to view it and such a great reminder um, that that's the time to really stretch your wings and really
Absolutely.
step out of your comfort zone because you don't have Judge Judy's there.
Absolutely. And there's not that pressure. I think when you're, I don't know, speaking from looking at the fitness industry and you're saturated in it, I've been in it for well over a decade, creating content on Instagram, like since 2011. um, then you're starting to look at all your peers and what they're doing and what's trending, and then you get in too much in your head about it. But when you're starting out and you don't know everything, that's when you make a lot of mistakes and you don't like beat yourself up over it. But once you have more experience, you're like, oh, I should know this. I should be able to do this by now. I should be able to speak on this more clearly. You feel a lot more pressure as an expert in your field. But when you're starting
Yeah.
something new, I think we allow ourselves to make these mistakes more, and that's where the fun can happen if you just allow yourself that mental like and physical space, like, all right, this is the time for me to do messy. It's like when you go to college, you don't go when you're first starting off like knowing all the things. That's why you're there. By the end of it, you feel like you should know a lot more. Well, the same thing with like starting something new or getting into it. Like that's the time to not know everything, screw around, make things like fail, and then figure out like how to fix them.
Yeah, totally. And you know, 200, 300 views on content, I'm seeing this in the comments, so I'm just going to go for it, is still 200 people. And usually, especially at the beginning, and that's pretty standard view count for new accounts.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, Instagram, they're not showing you that stuff to the same 200 people.
Yeah.
Usually they're testing your content like, oh, does this group of people like this? They're trying to find who your audience is. So that's why it's also a good idea to put a variety of different things out there.
Yeah.
Help them help you to find your audience, and don't just do the same exact video with the same wording and look and visual and editing over and over and over again. Put out variety, get all those different views on your stuff and see what starts to pull in more engagement.
Absolutely.
The variety I think is really key, and it's variety of topics, variety of being entertaining, variety of just talking to your ideal audience, so to speak. You know, not if you want to talk to empty nesters or moms of preschoolers, that's totally different content.
Yeah. There was a while back, so having been in the fitness industry and social media space for a while, a perspective shift that's really great that hopefully can work for some of the people watching today is 200 people. Like that might not seem like a lot because you think of all these vanity metrics. People are getting thousands of views on their content. But if you had those 200 people in a room and you had to talk to them,
right?
that would feel like a lot of people. So instead of just looking at that number as like a little number in your video, imagine 200 people in a room. Go Google an image of what 200 people in one space looks like. And then you start to realize like, holy crap, like that's 200 people. Like that's a lot of freaking people. And it kind of puts it into a different perspective for you thinking, wow, I reached 200 people today. Keep going. Like, you know,
right? Could you imagine you're in a conference and the room has 300 people and they're like, okay, can you please play your reel?
yeah.
Please play your TikTok. You would freak out. You'd be like, I can't show these people in this room. But
Yeah.
you did. And you're showing up every day and you're doing that. And that's a beautiful thing. And if it becomes 200 people of raving fans, those are your buyers. Those are people that
Absolutely.
are clicking on your links. So I don't ever see 200 as like, look at it. There's a way to look at it really positively and keep dialing in your content and keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I would rather have 300 absolutely like raving, totally all in, I love you fans and followers that engage with all of my stuff and click on my links than 10,000 who could give two shits about anything I post tomorrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Because they ain't buying anything from
Nothing. Yeah.
It's just, it's vanity. It makes us feel good in the moment.
It does until it goes the other direction because it's going to come in waves. Like, and I think that's the fun. Like, I'll start a new account and I get like really excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got like 10 more views on this than I got the day before. Like, there's a new platform out there. If you guys haven't heard of it, you need to jump on it. It's called Lemonade. And it's like refreshing. And I'm like, this is exciting because it's new. Like,
Right.
it's like the Wild West. And I'm like, just playing around on there. I'm like, cool. Like, it's much more exciting to me because, again, there's no pressure. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's new to everybody. So if you haven't got on there yet, go around there and play around and just like mess around and find out. I'll like, buffer that. That's like the trending thing out there, but it's true.
Yeah, totally. And there's always going to be a new social media channel. There's something always going to be around the corner.
100%.
It's also really exciting, but it's also why we can't be, okay, this is my checklist of 12 things, and that's all I'm going to do. And if I'm not successful doing this, I'm out. You have to be willing to always be growing. And just like at the very start, we talked about always be learning.
Absolutely.
And getting stoked and excited about new platforms and algorithm changes and new features within a current social media platform. Get excited about those, test them out, play with them. That's what keeps us in the online space. Like somebody yesterday said, a lot of us are a little ADD. Use it to our advantage. Let's go. Like, we got new features, we got new things in the stories. Use it all to your advantage and go for it and be social.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. What's your piece of advice for anyone brand new to the challenge? Because we have a lot of people in the comments saying this is their first Wake Up Legendary.
Oh, wow.
They just started the challenge. They're trying to figure their life out with all of this. What's your piece of advice for anyone in that moment right now?
I think just keep going. Like, and this is something that I just tell myself sometimes too. I remind myself, just keep going because everything feels overwhelming and unsure initially. Like, if you can relate it back to anything else you've ever started, like going to college, you're like, oh crap, is this the degree for me? Like, should I be in this field? I can't tell you how many times I thought that, and I continued on and I got the degree, but you're never going to get the degree. You're never going to get the certificate or the badge or the reward or the payoff if you don't keep going. Like, you have to push through. It might feel overwhelming because it's new, but that's how anything feels brand new. Becoming a mother or a parent, moving out on your own, like all those things are new. They feel overwhelming. Just keep going. And then look to other people. I think it's so easy to get defeated and see other people who are really successful and say, oh, like, like they're doing all this, like they've already done it. Like, and instead of looking at them and feeling defeated or like you can't reach their level, I like to look at those people and say, they did this. Like, it just shows that it can be done and that it's possible for me, and use them as a source of inspiration. Be genuinely, authentically happy for them because they figured it out, and that means you can do. So those are the pieces of advice I would offer.
I love that. Yeah. It's so true. Like, we all go in different phases of our life. Like when we're single, married, we're now parents, working full-time or part-time. There's all these different seasons. And just as we age, we view the world differently. We have different priorities. And the same thing happens with our own careers, our own goals. They adjust too. And it's okay to allow ourselves to adjust.
Absolutely.
You're not the same person you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago.
Hopefully not.
Right? So you don't have to be the same person stuck in your job. You don't have to be this. You can always do something new and evolve.
Absolutely. But you have to choose, you have to make that, you have to do it intentionally and choose that. I think sometimes we think that change and evolution is just going to fall into our laps, like magically happen. No, like you have to opt into that. And then you have to, once you opt in, sometimes you don't realize everything that comes with that. No, there comes some like trial and tribulation. Like,
Yeah. Well, and you sometimes like I noticed a mindset shift in me a while back. Just I was out to dinner with friends, moms from my kids' school, and listening to them absolutely complain about their bosses and their husbands, and that they had no intention of making a change. They wanted to
yeah.
get together every weekend for a dinner and sit and bitch.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I'm out. I can't do this.
Yes.
Y'all want to just like your joy is sitting here and complaining about your life and not doing anything about
Yeah.
it. Like, you are no longer my people.
Yeah.
Like I can't sit in this.
Yeah.
I gotta find a different circle. That's
You've
like,
outgrown
hey,
them.
let's look at the world differently. Let's look how we can make changes, adjustments, so we don't have to sit here and complain every time we're together. And you'll start to see even those shifts as you go through this journey. It's wild, but it's so cool. So embrace it all. Be excited about it.
There's a quote I love. I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm a huge fan of his. And he said, there's zero ROI on complaining. You don't get anything out of it. And for me, I'm just like, wow. But it's true. But if you're going to complain about something, like figure out what you're going to do about it too.
Exactly. Problem solve. Otherwise, don't complain because you're choosing it.
Absolutely.
You're choosing it. So you chose to live in that mud. Let's go be in different mud.
Yeah.
Different mud that you can wade through and have some fun with and make some content about. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And, Jessica says she's trying to be kind to herself, trying to be patient. And yeah, you have to allow yourself grace because there is no such thing as perfection. That's fake.
No.
It's fake news all day long. And the second you have enough self-confidence and enough self-esteem to say, I am an imperfect, awesome, crazy, amazing person, life gets a lot easier. A lot of weight comes off your shoulder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And just sticking to, I have goals and my goals matter. And that's especially hard for, I think, females usually there's a little bit more of we got to take care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves.
Oh, for sure. I think, yeah, I could go on about that. I think we hold ourselves back. We don't have the confidence or the level of security as like men do in certain roles. I think there's a shift coming through that, like in this wave, in this next generation. And I'm so here for it. But I grew up surrounded by, grew up with my father in a military family in a very male dominated world. I was the only girl. So I've had to do a lot of mental work to like shift that mentality and what I'm capable of. And I still like you have to put in the work all the time, every single day. So I think so.
Yeah. And your business, your education, your skill set are important.
Absolutely.
Taking that time to spend on those things isn't selfish. Like society kind of puts that label like, oh, if you focus on yourself, you're selfish. No, you're not. You are just as important as anyone else in the world that's doing the same thing. If they can have it, you can have it. Go after it.
So it's just proof that it's been done and that you're capable of doing it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love it. So some are asking, I know because I mentioned it, what is your fitness Instagram?
So it's the same. It's Rachel Nicole Fit though,
right?
Instead of Rachel Nicole Markets, and that's just kind of where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just pivot over here, go this way. So Rachel
I love
Nicole
it.
Fit.
Well, you know what? It really is a fantastic personal brand of how you can go into different niches and just make that small little adjustment.
Absolutely.
As you build, which is super cool. I love that. When I was checking out your stuff earlier this week, I was like, oh, I love this girl. I love your content. I love everything that you do. you're creative, you have a lot of energy, you're super positive, and you show up for your audience. And I think that's important for everyone to see when they check out your stuff. So
Thank you. Thank you for that.
yeah, definitely. We have to have you back on the show. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
You need
I
to
will.
meet Dave,
Yes.
and all that good stuff as well. And
Thank you
I'm
for having
super
me.
stoked with your journey and where it's going to take you over the next few months, over the next year, as you continue down this path. Um, Anyone that's been in the online space as long as you in different ways just gets the experience and the bigger picture that comes. And that's always great knowledge for anyone new, especially those that are watching. So you definitely need to come back on.
Thank you so much for having me. I have to say, I just want to put out here, like, this show in particular, watching this, I have watched several people that I look up to and just like found new people to be inspired from. Like on the days that felt hard or tough or like I wasn't making progress, like I would come and watch this show, watch you and Dave and anyone on here. Like if you guys are struggling, just show up here, watch some Wake Up Legendary, find your inspiration, find the people that
Yeah.
you I guess are inspired by, go follow them and then follow their journeys. It's really inspiring. So thanks so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, our pleasure, and definitely come back.
I sure will.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, you have to go give Rachel a follow on TikTok and Instagram at Rachel Nicole Markets. All connected, Rachel Nicole Markets, no spaces, no hyphens, all of that good stuff. And just like Rachel shared, anytime you need inspiration or you need a piece of content, I guarantee every single episode of Wake Up Legendary has something you can talk about in a video somewhere. Be the reporter. You don't have to have massive success to show up online to your followers. It doesn't matter if it's a small following or a large one. There's something to share, there's something to teach. There's someone out there to connect with. You're worthy of it. Go after it. Happy Friday, everyone. And we'll be back on Monday.